Hello there.
So, this is sort of the aftermath of the earnings call video, and we can basically glean out of it that Bob Iger is pretty much a broken and defeated man. The way he sounded, even the CNBC interview the next day was basically the obvious that he was just not going to fight anymore. And really, what is there to fight? When you think about what is going on here with the company, Disney, and how much money they've lost, you can't argue with Nelson Peltz and other investors when they're saying something has to happen, something new has to happen. They're right. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on. It's pretty obvious that Iger bent the knee, and there's now more evidence, I think, that Peltz had the votes. Now, why would this even be going on? And why would Peltz make an appearance since the firing of Bob Chapek? Well, first off, we know that Dan Loeb of Third Point Investments, or whatever his company's called, invested $1 billion, and he had tried to talk Chapek into spinning off ESPN. And don't be surprised if that idea is still on the table. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Chapek actually did talk about, I think they are making ESPN its own division, so basically they are spinning it off. ESPN brings in a lot of money, but what's the point if the rest of the company is failing? And the parks are failing too. There are now huge indications that Universal is basically kicking Disney's ass in the parks issues. So Disney is really in a mess, and Nelson Peltz knows about it. And let's talk about what he knows. Okay, so let's go back and talk about Bob Chapek. Bob Chapek mysteriously gets fired on a Sunday night, which is unheard of. There's absolutely no reason for it that makes logical sense, even though Disney has come up with propaganda and excuses for doing what they were doing. I do believe that Disney is involved with FTX. We know that Bob Iger's name was dropped on CNBC by the FTX spokesman. And I do believe that Nelson Peltz knows about this, about the crazy financial shenanigans and malfeasance going on. I also believe that this guy right here, Dan Loeb of Third Option, who's a self-made millionaire or billionaire, knows about those shenanigans too. And this has created a perfect storm. If Disney is involved with the shady stuff going on at FTX, now let me explain why I believe that. Disney is an enormous company. It is a conglomerate. They could have a company we don't know about shifting money to FTX, and they don't need to be listed. And that company doesn't need to be listed on the list of people and companies that were involved with FTX for them to be involved. In fact, I don't believe half of the entities that were involved with that scheme are listed in what was released. Bob Iger's name wasn't on it, and yet we know through Kevin O'Leary, the spokesman for FTX, that he was one of the very first, if not the very first investor. And we also know that Bob Chapek had been talking about investing in blockchains, etc. Now, did they? Or were they already invested? And when FTX went, for lack of a better description, tits up, realized that they were screwed. Okay, obviously something happened. Christine McCarthy declined to let him see the books. Dan Loeb probably knew about these issues, Nelson Peltz, and there's a third billionaire friend of Peltz who's part of this. So there's $4 billion in investments in Disney right now, and that at least equals BlackRock, and in fact, probably, along with other unnamed investors, probably dwarfs BlackRock, which is why now Bob Iger is the little puppet man to Peltz and these investors.
Ready, everybody?
All set.
Here we go again.
So the Hulu thing is really complicated because Disney owns part of Hulu. They don't own Hulu outright. And the idea that they could just sell their part, it's very complicated. Either Comcast comes in and buys it outright, or Disney sells their piece of it. But Bob Iger did talk about it, and let me tell you, I've heard from sources that this is a kind of a big thing that people in C-suites across Hollywood are talking about. But I still think the bigger issue is ESPN, because that would bring in a lot of money right away. And again, they could sell ABC News or ABC, but I don't think it would be worth the price they're asking. And I think that would even bring in more money than ESPN. But again, then they would lose their stake in cable and linear broadcasting, which is kind of a big deal still. We'll just have to see how this goes. Again, I guess my thing is, the way the streaming peaked in 2022, there are too many streaming platforms, and I think probably cutting back on streaming and selling shows to like Netflix or Amazon or Apple TV would probably be a better option. It would bring in money right away. Go back to what worked, what was tried and true. There wasn't enough streaming out there for everybody to get a good pie slice, if you know what I mean. So what does this mean for woke? Well, Bob Iger never mentioned about getting rid of ESGs. But let's talk about this. Does he have to? 7,000 jobs, if not more. 7,000 doesn't mean more won't be added. Okay. That's just a figure they came up with. They've probably gone through what they need to do. They're going to fold divisions into one division and probably fire redundancies. However, I do know through Cameron Pasha that the studios are not going to be immune. And Lucasfilm is probably really being looked at hard for changes. We do know that Kathy Kennedy's swan song is likely Indiana Jones 5. And I'm going to tell fans out there who are cheering for it to be a failure. Don't cheer for this movie to be a failure just because she's one of the executive producers. When I look at what's going on, it's $300 million, if not $350 million budget for this movie. Obviously, it was probably a $200 million budget, and then the reshoots came up. Okay, that's reshoots included. This movie has to make at least $1 billion, in my opinion, to break even. And for the sake of the good people, including Frank Marshall and Harrison Ford and John Rhys Davies, I think you guys probably want this to be a success. So these guys go out on a high note, okay? But this isn't the only thing going on there that we can look at as being like a swan song for Kennedy. She asked Bob Iger if she had another movie being developed, if she could stay on. He said no. The movie, I believe, was Damon Lindelof's pipe dream, Star Wars sequel to the sequels, which is probably Ray Gru. And it's just, somebody on another channel said, well, they could have Rey get pregnant with Kylo's baby, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's no. No one is going to see that. No one wants that. I mean, my thing is stop trying to rationalize the existence of these 3 dumpster fires. People don't like this character. And putting her in a situation like that with a character that is popular, Baby Yoda, who already overwrites the sequel trilogy, in my opinion, is going to kill that character too. So just know this, and really, with the $3 billion in cuts and content cuts, this movie's never going to happen. And as far as Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, from what I can tell, they're adding art people every once in a while, and rank and file crew, but that's it. Again, the set pictures we saw looked like a bad cosplay convention. It's very cheap, and from what Kamran was told, it's nothing more than a presentation reel. She probably did film 3 episodes, and that's it. I don't see, again, Alan Bergman or Dana Walden okaying this because, no, again, fans don't want it. It's not Ahsoka. It's not it's not Mandalorian. It's something that is obviously going to be woke trash that doesn't belong in Star Wars, like Andor. Okay. And really, at the end of this, it doesn't fit into the financials that Disney set out for itself. Again, how do you get rid of woke? You don't say you're getting rid of it. You just get rid of the woke people. You lay them off. And I do think we're going to see a lot of layoffs. We know that the Story Group is on its way out. And they know it. Okay, they're paranoid, they're blaming each other, they're attacking each other. They've shut their mouths pretty much on Twitter about anything. I'm sure Pablo has a lot to say in his private group that he's got, but still, they're also turning on people who aren't involved, which is not something we want. But again, when you've been so incompetent and put political message before story, and you're finally getting called out about it by the parent company, and you can't deal with it, and you know you're on your way out the door, you're going to do anything but bow out gracefully, fall on your sword, and do the honorable thing. You're going to blame other people and attack, and that's about what's going on here. So if you want to get rid of woke, you just lay it off. That's it. And I think that's what's going on. But anyway, I want to do an update and an aftermath video for you guys. This is Steph signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.
You like me because I'm a scoundrel. There aren't enough scoundrels in your life.
I happen to like nice men.
Nice man.
Very nice.